happening, people? Scarface Spurs here with episode number 6 of these live weekly shows every Monday, 8 p.m. Today, I'm joined by Jude, and I believe Dan will also be joining us on the Dan THFC channel. But firstly, Jude, who's here. How are you, Jude?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. You?
Yes, I'm very good, thank you. Before we get into it, I've got a quick sponsorship message to read out from our new partners, SecurItVPN. SecurItVPN is the premier choice for secure and private internet browsing. With the rise of online threats and surveillance, it's become most important than ever to protect your online identity and data. Their VPN service ensures that you can surf the internet without having to worry about prying prices. At SecurItVPN, they're committed to providing you with the highest level of security and privacy. Their VPN service is designed to make your online activities from hackers, cybercriminals, and government civilians. With their VPN, you can browse the internet, access your favorite websites, and stream your favorite shows without any restrictions. Massive shout out to them. If they're listening, use the code SCARFY at checkout to get 25% off your first month. Now that's done. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you like it, leave a like and keep the comments coming, because if you're listening on Spotify, remember this is live, so keep those comments coming. Already got a couple of comments. Common You Spurs says, "Hi mate, my first time in here. Looking forward to it, and big up, Common You Spurs. Big up." And Coach's Corner says, "Hi mate." So big up to everyone in the chat. But Jude, let's get into it. I want to know your thoughts 5 days on that goalless draw with Milan, seeing it's got knocked out of the Champions League. We had 100 minutes to put the ball in the back of the net. In the end, with that amount of added time, the amount of stoppages, we couldn't do that. So, obviously, being 5 days on, I want to know, your thoughts on, the performance. Did you think we left everything on the pitch? And also want to know your thoughts on Conte's change towards the end. Did we give everything?
Well, first of all, I thought that it was extremely frustrating and quite disappointing, actually. I thought that at home, with the atmosphere that the fans created, especially in the first half, I thought that we should have turned up more and been a bit less toothless and put in a fight and actually look like scoring, but we never looked like scoring. And I thought Conte's change, bringing on Sanchez for Kulusevski, when in my opinion Kulusevski looked like our most dangerous player, was ludicrous.
Yeah, thank you, Jude. Big up Dan, who's just joined us from Dan THFC channel. So Dan, firstly, how are you doing?
Doing all right. I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Jude?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good. So Dan, I'm going to bring you in on this. 5 days on, from that Milan game, goalless draw, seeing us get knocked out of the Champions League. Like I said to Jude, we had 100 minutes, to put the ball in the back of the net. We couldn't do that. Did you think we left everything on the pitch? And what's your thoughts 5 days on, seeing us get knocked out of the Champions League?
Well, I don't think we left everything on the pitch. I think definitely we've seen players this season who have just lacked in quality, and especially in these type of games, what you've noticed it the most in cup games like this. Matter of fact, we didn't leave with everything on the pitch. We didn't even leave with all 11 players on the pitch. So it was honestly, for me, watching that game was dreadful. And it's a certain pattern that we're starting to see every year. And it's because I haven't watched Tottenham as long as a lot of other Tottenham fans, and obviously us as well. I'm starting to realize a pattern here where every year it's the same promise and every year it's the same heartbreak. And I'm starting to realize that these players at the end of the day are just not good enough. No matter what manager, no matter what style of play, having Eric Dyer, having players like Ben Davies, and I know Eric Dyer didn't play, but still you've got players like Ben Davies in the squad, just bang average footballers. And I understand the problem was that we didn't score. I understand that. At the same time, I think AC Milan defensively they were fantastic. But I think this season we've been seeing it. Son has just been so lackluster. Kane, that game was poor. Kulusevski was poor. Just in these games, I know they're quality in league matches, but you need players to show up in the big games. And we haven't had that from these players throughout their time at Tottenham. So I think it also has to do with part of that as well. I also think it has to do with Romero getting sent off, because I think if we would have had all 11 players on the pitch before the game would have ended, I think it could have been a different story. But at the end of the day, That's just dumb tackle from Romero. And then I put the blame on Romero, not on the referee, on Romero, because that's a stupid tackle to make. There is zero threat from that position. And because his name is Christian Romero, people just make memes out of it and call it Brexit. But no, it's stupid. If it would have been Emerson Royale that would have made that same tackle, he would have been getting laughed at on Twitter for months. Hold the
Thank you,
same
Dan.
standards to every player.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I couldn't agree more with you there. Jude, if I'm right thinking, you have a little stat for us.
Yeah, so with what Dan was saying about how AC Milan defended really well, and this also links into our recruitment as well, which I think is obviously a big problem. AC Milan's back three that they played with against us, in total, so including the goalkeeper, in total it cost somewhere, I think it was around 33 million euros, and the most expensive player being Tamori, which was 23 million euros, and the rest of their back three, and then their goalkeeper. One of them was 6 million. Kalulu was 6 million. The I don't know how to say it, the TU guy, he was 3, and Mainyan was, I think, 11.
Really?
Sorry, not 11. It was a lot cheaper than that. I think it was 3, like
Wow.
3 million, and that's just how good shows how good their recruitment is compared to ours, where we've got Ben Davis, Eric Dyer, and in the end Sanchez, who cost 40 million.
Yeah, it's not only our management. At the same time, it's also just how our club is run. The
Yeah.
fact that players like Eric Dyer have allowed to stay here for 9 years just tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. Dan, coming back to you, I want to know your thoughts on a change that Conte made with 7 minutes to go, seeing Kulusevski come off for Davinson Sanchez when we need a goal. We're going out of the Champions League. Can you understand why he's made that change? And looking back on it, is it absolutely ridiculous, or is it just one that he got wrong personally for you?
Look, I can understand why he made it. Obviously, you saw that it had to do with the Romero red card. And I can understand his thought process. But at the end of the day, I think it was a mistake. When you're 1 goal down and you need a goal, I think it's just the common thing to do to bring on an attacking player, not to take one off. And let's be honest here, no manager's perfect. Managers do make mistakes. But that was a massive mistake, and that could have cost us the game right there. I think there was many options that he could have gone with. He could have put Højbjerg into more of a defensive position, but there was no need in bringing Kulusevski off. But I will add, Kulusevski was playing very poorly. But it was still not the right thing to do. When you need a goal, one of your most creative players on the pitch, you leave him on the pitch to create chances. But to continue, I'm going to continue to say it. All managers make mistakes, and that was a mistake. I don't think it's a sacking offense. I don't think just because you made that sub, you should be getting sacked for it. But I think that it was terrible substitution, and he definitely could have made a better choice. But at the end of the day, let's say we score a goal, and then we've got one center back on the pitch, and then we get scored on again.
Yeah.
Then everybody would be calling for Conte to bring on a center back. So you just got to think
Yeah.
about those type of things as well.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. You make a good point. Not many people I think recognise that. And also Sanchez came on and had a bit of involvement and was unmarked at the time. So on another day, perhaps it could have worked. But Jude, bringing you onto this, do you agree with Dan?
Yeah, I do, but I think there have been a lot of times where he's made a similar mistake, and when it builds up and builds up, I think it's just gets to the point now where there's clearly something that he either doesn't care, or he's just not the most, I don't know, it's not clever, but in terms of at the time, not the most game smart manager. Because if it has happened just once, then I'd get it, but the fact that it's happened quite a few times, especially in games, I think when we were, when last year against Liverpool, I could be wrong, but when we went to 1-0, instead of like pushing for a winner, which we needed, he when we were on the front foot, he brought on Sanchez, and that passed onto the back foot, which just didn't make sense. And there have been multiple more like things where that's happened.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And keeping the subject on Conte, bit of statistic there. So our form in the Premier League in 2023, so he played 11 games, won 6, lost 5, scored 16 and conceded 14, which is very similar results to Nuno. In fact, the same results as Nuno going in before that Forest game. Obviously, that Forest game helps with those statistics. So Jude, sticking with you, I want to know your thoughts. Is that record acceptable? What do you put it down to? And like I said, keeping the subject on Conte, do you wait to the end of the season, or if results get worse, would you sack him and bring in another manager? It may sound crazy, but some people suggest that to get a new manager bounce. So I want to know your thoughts on that statistic and the thought of Conte potentially being sacked if results get worse.
Well, that statistic, I think it's the reason that it's not as bad for Conte is because it's Conte, and it's with Nuno. He's not really a proven manager, like winning things wise. But Conte, because he's won stuff elsewhere, it's maybe deemed a bit more acceptable for Conte, for whatever reason. But I think that I would say stick with Conte to the end of the season on the basis that we've been here before in a top four race, and last year it was very similar to what it could be later on in the season. So I think the fact that we've got experience with the same manager, I say keep him to the end of the season and then sack him in the summer.
Okay, thank you, Jude, for that. And before I get your opinion on this, Dan, shout out to Jay, who's from TikTok Live. I went live on TikTok before coming on here. So massive shout out. I said I'm going to give everyone a shout out that came from TikTok Live. So massive shout out to Jay. Dan, so your thoughts on what Jude said. I want to know, would you sack Conte perhaps? I think was more of a question before we exited 2 competitions of the week. But yeah, I want to know your thoughts on our form in 2023 and where you stand with that.
Well, look, I think our form and our results they've been poor. Let's just say it like that. And I get that our results have been similar to Nuno Espirito Santos, but let's just put this like the same way. Like you're looking at the squads, both managers had the same squad. So did Jose Mourinho. So did Pochettino. How has every manager been able to fail with the same amount of players? I think that we consistently put the blame on all the managers, but I think the blame should go more on the players. We know Conte can win when he's given the players that he wants. I want Conte to go ballistic. I don't know what you guys stand when it comes to the board, but I want Conte to go ballistic so all the fans can realize that the problem doesn't lie where the manager is. The problem lies where the club is run from the top. That's where the rotten part of the apple is. From Daniel Levy. That is where it is. Our recruitment is an absolute joke. Our record signing was in Ndombele. Look at him now.
Yeah.
Look at him now. He's resting in Napoli. He's just having a night out in Napoli. Sevilla. We did a swap deal with Lamela for Brian Hill plus cash. Both of those players are right now chilling in Sevilla. Both of them.
Yeah.
Our recruitment's an absolute travesty. Conte, and not only Conte, but no other manager is going to ever succeed at this club with the way that it's being run. None. No manager.
Yeah.
Bring in Pep Guardiola, Sir Alex Ferguson in his prime. Still, we would not succeed. We wouldn't succeed. It's impossible to succeed with the way that this club is run. It's impossible. When you want players out, you look at. I've seen some quotes from Jose Mourinho a few days ago that he wanted Kim Min-jae. He cost $5 million. Levy bid $3 million. It got rejected.
Yeah.
He said no. Look at Kim Min-jae right now in Napoli.
Yeah, bossing it.
He's one of the best centre backs in Europe right now. Yeah. And we could have bought him for $5 million. We had the option to buy Jack Grealish not too long ago. Bruno Fernandes, we had the option to buy. Instead, we went in for Jedson Fernandes. We wanted Skriniar. We got Joe Rodon.
Yeah.
Like, our recruitment is a joke. And I think the managers continuously get the blame. But I think the blame should go somewhere else. And that's where our club is run from the top. And our recruitment. It's a joke.
Thank you, Dan. I'm glad you actually brought that up. I think our recruitment is terrible. I mean, when the investment's been there, the recruitment's been really shocking. Like, the amount that we've got out on loan. I'd like to bring up firstly this comment from my good friend Trash Judge and Chain saying, "Hi Harry, love the content." And also the comment I want to bring up, I think another discussion talking point. Ellis says, with the rumour of João Pedro from Watford going to AC Milan, what do you think will happen with him with the Champions League and stuff like that? Have you got anything to say about this, Dan? I haven't heard it personally.
João Pedro to AC Milan. I like João Pedro. I think he's a good player. But I don't think he's going to make it into the starting 11. I'm going to be honest. I don't see him breaking into the starting 11. And I don't see him having too much of an impact in the Champions League, but I think I rate Joao Pedro. I really do. And I wouldn't even doubt it with how great AC Milan's recruitment has been in the past few years. I wouldn't even doubt it that he goes on to be a great player.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Jude, do you rate Joao Pedro from Watford?
Yeah, I rate him, but I think I completely agree with Dan there. I don't think he'll break through, but I think
I
he'll
mainly,
be.
I mainly rate him because I had him in my FIFA career mode. That's mainly the reason why I rate him.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, that's a good enough reason if you ask me. Sticking with the subject of Conte, I want to know, starting with you, Jude, if Conte, committed and surprisingly, it's unlikely at the moment, but of course it could still happen. It's still a possibility. Signed a contract extension in the summer. Would you be happy, when you've got that uncertainty over? He's put pen to paper. Would you be happy with that if it happens? Of course.
No, because I think this club needs to change. I mean, from the top down, I just think the whole club needs change. Manager, I mean, he doesn't seem to even care at this point. He's lost the players, so I think at the end of the season, just get somebody back. He will get the players back on side and make the players want to play for him.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. Dan, do you agree, or would you be happy if Conte, as I said, put pen to paper and cleared all this uncertainty? Because a big problem fans have got, or one of the problems I should say, is the uncertainty right now. Would you be happy? I mean, obviously, you still got to deal with the board and that, but is that a good thing in your eyes?
Well, I think Conte, we all know that when he does leave, he's probably going to explode in a press conference. He's going to leave it all out for everybody to see and for the press.
Yeah.
That would be one good thing about him leaving, because then all the fans will finally be able to see what is actually going on in the background of this club. I mean, I don't know if you saw it, Harry, but recently that Danny Rose interview on Sky Sports was very telling.
Yeah, I think spot on.
Yeah, very, very telling. But I think that Antonio Conte signing a new contract, I think it would just be a fact that he'd just be happy to just get top 4 every season, not compete for any trophies, and he'll be getting paid the big bucks. And to be honest, I don't think Daniel Levy would have too much of a problem with that. I think that's what Daniel Levy wants, just top 4 every season, get that Champions League cash, and I think he'd be fine with that. But I don't think I've got a problem with Antonio Conte signing if he's backed. But we all know this is not going to happen. But I just I wouldn't be mad if Antonio Conte leaves, because I know he can't win anything. Nobody can. But I just want fans to stop putting the blame on him and putting the blame where it should go, to the owners. And if it takes Pochettino coming back and then Pochettino failing again, for all the fans to realize that it's not on the manager, I would want Pochettino back, so every fan in this club can realize what is the real problem at this football club. That's the problem. We can't unite as a football club and as a fan base. We can't unite against the owners. We really can't. We've got people turning up to the stadium just going, "Oh yeah, but look where we were 10 years ago. We should be grateful where we are. We're asking for too much." Man, ambition is never too much. Asking for ambition is never too much. We're the 9th richest club in football, and we charge the most in English football for season tickets. If we're charging the most, we should be demanding the most as fans. So I think anything that would get the fans to wake up and realize that where the problem really lies, I would go for. For me, I've said it a few times, I think it could be relegation. We have to get to that point. Maybe not relegation, but a relegation battle for the fans to actually realize where the problems of this club lie. But I don't think Conte is the problem. But if he signs a contract, I wouldn't be too much for it, because I think that he'll mainly be signing it in the thought of just cashing in every month, bringing in cash for his family, obviously, and he's getting paid lots of money, right? But I don't think that he'd already be accepting the fact that he won't be winning trophies, and that his ambition as a manager, as a serial winner, would be lowered.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Dan. I can give my opinion on this. Actually, something that I want to say. I've been on many podcasts, perhaps being harsh, on Conte. We will get into in just a second after I give my opinion. Everyone likes to pinpoint blame. Who is the main problem? But I just think, as much as I want to see Conte succeed at Tottenham, I want to see, him winning trophies at Spurs. I want it to all be all happy. I can't see it happening. I just can't. It's clearly not working for me. I can't see it's going to happen. I think we've got loads of problems with the club. I think we'll get into, but as I said, as much as I want it to happen, I can't see it happen. Can't see it happening. You can't question an elite manager and a proven winner. How people hiding behind the players on social media, their player profiles, their fake profiles, and can criticize an elite manager, a proven winner, is beyond me. You can't question that. There's some things that I think can easily be questioned. Right now, would I want to see him sign a new contract? Probably not, because I know that changes are needed from top to bottom of this club. And I think Conte's stubbornness, personally, for me, is an issue for that. And that leads us on to, I think, perfectly, who is mainly to blame for our situation. As I said, fans, I'm guilty of it. You might be of always wanting to, put blame on an individual. It's always when things aren't going right. You always want someone to blame. So, Juice, since you're back, I'm going to put this question on you first. Who's mainly to blame for our situation, or is it just a bit of everything?
I think it's a bit of everything, really. I think certain players haven't been good enough, managers haven't been good enough, the whole board as a whole obviously hasn't been good enough, like Dan said, like the whole recruitment and everything about it. And I think the fans as well, like especially Harry, I think you said a couple of weeks ago about the whole Levy out and Enoch out process, how fans bottled it and just didn't bother. They did it like a few weeks, and then nobody really united and did it all as a community, as a group. And I think they just bottled it, as you said. So I think the entire fan base and the entire club as a whole is to blame for all the problems.
Yeah, I think though, when it comes to the protests, as much as we like to say they bottled it, we have to give credit to the fans that actually did turn up at the protests.
Yeah,
because they're the ones demanding success for our club. And I know probably all of us know the main man, Brian Daigle, a legend when it comes to the Levy out whole situation.
Yeah.
Big up to him and all the other Spurs fans that did show up, because they're the ones demanding success for a club. Yeah, it's all well and done going on Twitter and saying Levy out, but you have to show up to the protests, and the fans that did show up, big up to them.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I think personally, the majority of fans, I got called out for this, and I'm still continue to say it. I think the majority of us fans did bottle it, but fair play to the ones who turned up. I'm glad you mentioned Brian, who's a key part, I think, a voice for us fans. It's a term that not many people like to use, but he's, for me anyway, a voice for us fans, voices our opinions, turns up, organises, always turns up to everything. And we need more people like him, I think, to lead by that. So it's interesting, but that leads us on to perfectly, Dan, far away. Who do you think is the main problem at the moment? I know you said recruitment's been poor, Levy in the out protest, but would you say that it is a bit of everything? Conte's part of the problem, recruitment's part of the problem, Enix's part of the problem. Bit of everything, or would you put it on that individual in Levy, perhaps the board as well?
Yeah. I think it all has to fall on the board, no matter what you think. No matter if you're Levian and you blame the manager. All right, so who's put the manager in place to run the squad? If you think you're Levian, but it's just the players that are the problem. All right, so who's put the players in the position to be on the football pitch representing Tottenham Hotspur Football Club? No matter what you believe, if you think the chef is cooking the chicken too hot, who's put the chef there to cook the food? The ones in charge is the one at the top that is the one controlling everything. And I think what made it very clear to me how this club is run is that Amazon documentary. When you've got Jose Mourinho, a proven winner manager, having a breakfast with Daniel Levy, a man who's won one League Cup in 21 years, and Daniel Levy sitting there telling him, "Oh yeah, Harry Winks, he's a very good player, isn't he?" And Jose Mourinho's just looking at him like, "Yeah, this guy's an idiot." It tells you how this club is run. It tells you how this club is run. I could see it. I could see Conte having a breakfast with Daniel Levy every morning and him going, "Yeah, Eric Dyer, what a player, eh?" And Conte's just like, I can't. For me, I don't know how you can put the blame anywhere else other than Daniel Levy. There's no excuses for this man.
Yeah, completely agree. And I'm glad you brought up the Amazon documentary, because I think that perfectly, like you said, represented the way the club's run. Levy poking his nose in and everything. And we're talking about a man in Daniel Levy who I respect as a businessman. But I think, some of the deals he does, the business side of things, he runs the club really, really well, and credit to him for that. But when it comes to football, he really hasn't got a clue. He doesn't know any more than us fans do. It's frustrating. Annoys me anyway. But I think that leads us perfectly onto once again, coincidence leads us on perfectly. I'm going to start with you, Jude. Would you have Poch back, in the summer? If not, who would you have back? Who would you have?
I would. I would have
Mm.
Poch back on the basis that he has passion for the club and he has genuine love, and he had an interview recently. He said, "Before I die, I want to manage Tottenham again," and that to me shows that he genuinely loves the club and actually wants to manage us, and it's not just for a paycheck, and it's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I do know what you mean. Fair enough.
I would with Poch.
But
You
dude,
would?
I love I love the fact that he loves the club and all this and all that. But after him seeing how the club is run, if you really love Pochettino, which I do love Pochettino, why would you want him to go back into this hellfest of a football club, how it's run? Why would you want him to have to handle Daniel Levy again?
Yeah, I agree.
I get the fact that he loves the club, and all of us do as well. But why? Why would this guy? What would be in it for him? What would
Dan,
be in
what
it for
would be
him?
your top three managers right now you want with Tottenham in the summer? 1 to 3.
Look, I've said it before. I don't think any manager that comes in is going to change the situation. But for me, there's a few options out there. Luis Enrique is one that really speaks out to me. I love Pochettino. In terms of Tottenham standpoint, I love Pochettino, but I don't see anything in him coming back. But him coming back, I think it'd be a good. Um, struggling to think of another person. Look, when it comes to managerial appointments, there will be somebody that appears and is available. But I mean, if you look at the list of managers that we put together, I mean, the fact that Ryan Mason is in there is I don't know how that's managed to pull off. The Nottingham Forest manager was in there as well. Like, I think the main two, if we're gonna put it down to two, it's gonna be Luis Enrique or Pochettino. But the thing with this football club is that we don't have an identity. So you see teams like Brighton. When Potter left, they had another attacking manager that played the same style of football to come in. Let's say Pochettino comes in and we play that 4-3-3. We've just signed 2 attacking wingbacks. What's going to happen with them now?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, a club has to have an identity. Not even the academy has the same type of identity as a football club, as the first 11. They don't. They don't have the same identity of play. So that as a football club to function, you need to have a style of play that you're going to play. We went from Pochettino to Mourinho to Ryan Mason to Nuno to Conte. Us going back to Luis Enrique or Pochettino would just show how this club has zero identity. But for me, if I was going to pin it down to 2, I would say Pochettino and Luis Enrique. But I don't see any of that. I don't know why any of those 2 managers would just come to this football club to fail. They'll qualify for top 4 one season, and then they won't win a trophy, and their season and their managerial career will go down the drain.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. I think you could have something like Pep and Klopp, come to this company. If they're not going to get the right investment or the right recruitment, I can't see them doing well. People say, but if Mourinho and Conte, who are 2, as much as they both annoyed me at times, especially Conte right now, they're 2. You mustn't ignore the fact they're 2 elite managers and 2 proven winners. And you can't argue otherwise. I mean, if they can't win something at Tottenham, then who can? That's the way I look at it personally. Jude, your top 3 that you want manager next season, 1 to 3.
I would say obviously Poch, as I said. I think if we can manage to get Zerbi from Brighton, I think that'd be a good appointment. But as Dan said, there's not really going to be any manager that can save us. Really, it's all down to the board, and it's just there's pointless getting another good manager in because they're not going to win anything. And
yeah,
we're at that point. It's like, if you're going to get an elite manager and not win stuff, it's essentially throwing money down the drain because they're going to be on a high salary. And if they're not going to win anything, then what's the point in having them? You might as well just have Ryan Mason in charge.
but dude, like, I'm not even joking, De Zerbi. Why would he leave Brighton to come to Tottenham?
That's true.
When he knows he can get back at Brighton and he sees how the club is being run, why would he leave that brilliantly run club to Tottenham Hotspur?
apart from
I
the
don't see.
stadium.
But the stadium is not
Apart from
going
the
to give him
stadium.
good football. I
No.
don't see a
The facilities.
manager. I don't see a manager going, "Oh yeah, what club am I gonna go to? We've got Brighton here who's run very well. I'm gonna get all the players that I please." But then there's other clubs that's run terribly, but they've got a nice stadium. They've got F1 tracks under
Yeah.
the stadium. They've got an NFL field.
Yeah. Go karting.
Lady
Yeah.
Gaga's coming next week. Like, I don't know how a
Yeah.
manager's going to
Yeah.
sit there
Yeah.
and think of that as a positive.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I want to see us, as much as I said, as much as I want Conte to succeed, I think we should go back to the way we used to seeing things. For me, it doesn't help. Like for example, with Conte, same with Mourinho, the style of football that we're playing, I think fans like myself run out of patience quite quickly. I think I'm someone who is guilty of that, but I can tolerate the football. If we're winning, I don't think things are going great at the moment. But the names I would put in there. The first name that comes to my head is Thomas Frank. I think he's one of the most underrated managers you'll get personally out there. He's taken, I mean, sorry if there's any Brentford fans here, but he's taken a championship club in Brentford to the Premier League, and we're talking about a side that could be potentially playing in Europe. Well, at the moment, could be likely, in fact, to be playing in Europe next season on a low budget as well. And I just think that suits Tottenham with the football, with the budget. I think with overachieving. So Thomas Frank, one that really comes to me first. Pochettino, of course, I think has achieved more. Well, obviously won no trophy, but if looking back at it, I think we all thought that Mourinho and Conte, when we sat Poch 2019, you would have thought Mourinho and Conte would have, one of them would have won a trophy. If you said we'd had Mourinho and Conte, you would have gone, I would have won a trophy by now. But that proves how I think we are wrong. I think what Pochettino done at the time, I think definitely overachieved. So he's a name that for me has to be in there. But like Dan says, why would he want to come back in the state we're in? That's a perfect point. And Luis Enrique is another name it's a big name. But I can't see personally, much changing, unless we have a change for me anyway, from top to bottom. But that's me done. Moving on.
I do think, though, Thomas Tuchel as well. He could be a name.
But Harry, don't you think that us appointing Thomas Frank would be literally the same thing as when we appointed Nuno Espirito Santos? Like maybe we'll have good football for a while.
Yeah, that's certainly a worry. I just think that Thomas Frank has done a better job at Brentford than Nuno done under Wolves. People say, it's a very, very similar thing, but I think under Nuno they had more investment. The style's completely different. For me, it was clear to see that Nuno's never gonna suit Spurs. He wasn't our first choice. He'd been sacked by Wolves. The difference is for me anyway that Thomas Frank is doing the job. Nuno dipped towards the end, but yeah, there is certainly similarities. But Dan, Tuchel, Jude brought up then, if we had to appoint Tuchel, is that a fantastic thing? Is it a good thing, or is it doesn't matter type thing?
I think Tuchel now thinking about it, Tuchel, thinking about it, like I think it would be a good appointment, mainly for the fact that we'd actually be continuing a system from one manager to the other, in the fact that they play with wing backs, and we could play the same players that we played in the Conte system that we invested in, can come into the Tuchel system. And that's the problem when you don't have an identity, but this signing would be passing on the identity of this style of play. The problem is I don't think we'll win. And I don't think I think we'll go under a bad run of form, and the fans will turn on to Tuchel as well. So, like, I'm trying to look at the managerial appointments long term. I don't think Tuchel is going to win us anything. We've seen the winners come to this club, and they couldn't win. So, what would be the point? It'd literally be the Conte appointment all over again.
Yeah. Dan, I do think, though, with your saying about identity, I do think with the with Udogie next year and Porro, I do think they can probably play more attacking, because.
But can they play in the back four?
No, that's why you have.
So then someone like
I'm not saying it's the best, but you can play Royale at right back, because I think he's quite good defensively. He's not great at going forward, but I think he's quite good defensively. And then we can invest in a good left back, or for the time being have Ben Davis at left back. I'm not saying that's going to be the best option. Or we can have Perisic at left back. So we have got options. So then Udogie and Porro can play higher, which means that we can have more of an attacking format with like a 4-2-3-1, which would mean Kane sits behind Richarlison and we get all of our front four on at once, which I would prefer.
Yeah, thank you, Jude. Before we move on, I want to bring up this comment from Ellis. And Jude, I'm going to put you on the spot first. Who is your favourite player at Tottenham is under the age of 23? Jude, start with you. Put you on the spot.
I don't actually know how old quite a lot of the players are. Is Skip under 23? He must be, right?
Skip under 23. I don't know. It's a good question.
Let me have a look.
He must be around that age. But while Jude's looking that up, Dan, who's your favourite Tottenham player under 23? Putting you on the spot that you can think of.
Under 23, I like Skippy, of course.
Yeah, he's 22.
22.
Yeah, he is.
Skip.
Yeah, Ellis has said 22 as well. So yeah, he is 22. So yeah. Skip, I think, is a big one. Anyone else ring a bell?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have forgotten about him. But Dane Scarlett is one that I really do love. I love Dane Scarlett. I look at him and how he's playing in the Championship reminds me of Harry Kane, and I've seen a few clips of him playing. Yeah. And those passes that I've seen him play, that vision, it really does remind me of Harry Kane. And I don't want to put the name Harry Kane on him because that's a big, big name. And I don't think he should be focusing on being the next Harry Kane. I think he should be focusing on being Dane Scarlett. But there's a few other players as well. Papa Mate Sarr is one that really excites me. But there's a few players. The problem for me, though, is that there's very few coming out of the academy. And I think that has to come to the fact that we don't put too much into academy and the way that our academy is run. We've got a completely different system from our academy to our first team, which is something you don't see at many clubs. But if I were to say for you, I would say Papa Mate Sarr, Dane Scarlett, Oliver Skip. I love every Tottenham player, I'm going to be honest. Although I get frustrated when they don't perform. If you're wearing the Tottenham jersey, I want you to succeed. And I'll just love Papa Mate Sarr. That boy, seeing him on the ball and seeing him defensively, he's going to be a different player, I think, in the future. If I were to pick one that's going to be a good player in the future, I would say Papa Mate Sarr.
I do like Alfie Devine as well. I think Alfie Devine.
Yeah, Alfie Devine as well.
He's good as well. I think on the ball,
definitely.
He's just really calm.
Yeah, well said both. And I'm glad, Dan, you mentioned about the academy. You know, I question, the way the academy is being run. If you think about it, the style is probably completely different to the way the first team. But again, that comes down for me to Levy and the board. You're pointing someone that goes against the idea of the identity, the style of the club, against the whole way the youth academy works. I think partly because the managers we had in Mourinho and Conte, who prefer experienced players and get the job done, win a trophy. I think it's down to that. We haven't got many players coming through, but once you mention Dar, Skip, Devine, Scarlett, I mean, yeah, Scarlett, like Dan says, shows similarities to what we saw with Harry Kane. And when given the time and patience, I think, obviously we don't want to put that name on him, but that is, that's, I think, an exciting one for the future. But before we move on, one last comment from LS. What are your predictions for the top 6 this season? Dan, I'll start with you. From 1 to 6, where you think come the end of the season, teams will finish. I mean, that involves obviously Arsenal City title race, it involves the top 4 race, European race. So fire away.
All right, so for 6, I see. This is very interesting. This is very interesting. I see Chelsea coming 6th. I see Liverpool 5th, Tottenham 4th.
Wow.
Man United 3rd, Arsenal 2nd, and Manchester City 1st.
You're right. I definitely take that. Jude, starting from 6th place.
Number 6. My number 6 could be quite controversial. I don't think Chelsea will get Europe. Well, at least top 6, at least. Wow. I think that Fulham will get 6th. I think that Liverpool will get 5th. I think United will get 4th.
Wow.
I think we'll come 3rd. And at this rate, I hate to say it, I think Arsenal will come first and City will come second.
Thank you. Now I'm going to give mine, and mine is slightly unpopular, and it's one that I've changed and thought about over the day. Sixth place, I'm going to go Liverpool. I think that they're too inconsistent and have had a poor season for me. Fifth, I'm going Spurs. As much as I like to see us get top four, I think inconsistency will let us down. And you got to look. I look at we still got to go to Anfield. We still got to play Man United. We still got games to play. Go away to Goodison Park, away to St Mary's. Games that we know that we will struggle because of the club we are. Fourth, this is going to be a very, very surprising one considering where they are. They're currently 10 points off us, and that is Chelsea. I think that, I know it's a big one. It's a surprising one. They've had a terrible season. Changed managers, Tuchel to Potter, bought lots of new players, almost like Football Manager, bought 2 new players. It's not gelling, but I think it's starting to gel. I've got a bad feeling that 10-point gap, that's only 10 points, and I think they've got to gain more to play than us. So I've got a bad feeling Chelsea get fourth. Third, Man United, I think comfortably as well, very comfortably get third. Second, I'm going Arsenal. That means City for the title, I think purely because they've experienced, been in this situation before. And I think Arsenal, having a younger team and a manager in Arteta who's never been in this situation as a manager before, I think will let them down. And I hope that is the case. But before we move on, Dan, would you take, finishing fifth if it means that Arsenal, let me rephrase this. Would you rather Arsenal finish first and us finish fourth, or Arsenal finish second and we finish fifth? I know which I would rather, but what would you rather?
I would rather us finishing fifth and Arsenal not winning the league.
Yeah. Jude?
To be honest with you, I would rather us finish fifth than finish fourth, even if Arsenal don't win the league.
Yeah, it don't mean much, Jude.
I would completely agree. I would have to see us not get top four for Arsenal not to win the league, because I could never live that down if Arsenal win the league. It would be horrific.
Yeah, I agree with you both. I mean, top four doesn't change much apart from money and Levy's back pocket. I mean, people say, you get to play in the Champions League, but look how we played against Milan the other night. I mean, we're trying to get into a competition that we can't even turn up. Like that first half we played, like the team that 1-0 up, so it baffles me. Ellis says, and I can confess I forgot about Newcastle. I don't know about you two, but I'm surprised I haven't heard Newcastle, because I think they've had a great season. Yeah, I think Newcastle had a good season, but I think they will fall away. But being honest with you, I actually completely forgot, about Newcastle. But
that's true.
But moving on, I want to know that moving on to Saturday's result. People who didn't watch it, we beat Forest, 3-1. There was a bit of pressure on Antonio Conte going in the game, but I want to know, starting with you, Jude, does that game change anything? Your view of top four, your view on Conte, your view on the players, but this is mainly about Conte, remember? Or is it just the fact we got a result against a team that doesn't score many goals away from home, and has poor results away from home? We'll talk about a team that also, don't forget, could be in the Championship next season. Is it just the fact that it is a result? Or are people saying, we bounced back and we're going to go on a run now?
I think it's just about the result. They're not the best side in the world. Let's be honest. They're quite leaky at the back, and I don't know if you saw the game, but I was there, and in the second half, especially, I thought towards the end, we still looked extremely shaky defensively, and that. I mean, I know we're 3-0 up, and it doesn't really matter at that point, but still, like, their goal shouldn't. It was essentially a free header. Like, he was at the back post, and there wasn't anybody really challenging him, was there? And I just think it's still that there's still a lot of pressure on Conte to now we go on a run from here, but I don't think that we're back at all. I just think it was a result against a very poor side, and the scoreline could say it was convincing, but in the first half and in part of second half, I would agree. But then in the latter stages of second half, I would say that we were probably the poorer team.
Yeah. Thank you, Jude. Before I come to you, Dan, I'd just like to say, looking back on it, I mean, I said this before the game. It's not for me the fact of bouncing back that we did bounce back. It's the fact that we gave a tiny bit back to the fans who've made the effort, spent a lot of money in the club. Turned out giving up a lot of time in the last 9 days, which has seen us exit the FA Cup, exit the Champions League. Lose to Wolves in a game that was clearly prioritised by the club. So I think I gave a little bit back. I don't think it means we're back. I don't think it means we're going to go on a run. The fact we beat a side that's, I don't know statistics, but certainly has one of the worst away forms in the league. Can't put the ball in the back of the net. In the away from home in the league, people say, "Oh, Forest have a good record against top six clubs," but that's only ever at home. I think we were shaky at points in that game. It wasn't convincing. I mean, if IU scores that penalty at the end, we will get onto Fraser Forster, but if IU scores that, I mean, it looks a completely different game on paper. So how people can get carried away and say, like Conte hasn't lost his dressing room, we're back on track, we're still going to get finished third. All this for me is ridiculous. But Dan, I want to know your thoughts. Is it just the fact, like I say and Jude say, back just getting a result, or is it? Do you see it as going on a run?
Look, there was a lot of factors that I took from this game, especially the whole Richarlison situation. Love to see Richarlison have that type of performance after talking all that in the press conference. But I do think this could make us go on a run. And I've seen us just win these type of games. And that's just like a statement game where the players' confidence goes up and now we start winning a few games. But I will repeat it. Top four is nothing to me. If we get top four, then fine. But if we don't, I could care less. So there's nothing left to achieve this season. We're just playing friendlies, in my opinion. It's just friendly matches left for the rest of the season because these games for me mean nothing. But I do think in terms of the rest of the season, I think that we could go on a run.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for me, it's I'd like to see us go on a run. But when you look at the fixtures next, it does look fairly straightforward until we get to United's and Liverpool's towards the end of the season. But if you look, next two games on paper, I could be wrong, but I think it's Southampton and then Everton away, both two away games. And that we've gone there to St Mary's in the past and struggled. New Year's Day under Mourinho, we go into that game thinking we're going to win. You just know with Spurs, away from home against smaller oppositions, it's just something that we do. And I think, I worry personally, going into that game. But keeping the subject on Forest, and I come to you first, Dan, because I don't know if you saw the game, but I want to know your thoughts. If you've seen it, whether you watched the highlights, whether you watched it on the performance against Forest, did you think it was a better tempo, or was it just the fact we got the result, a bit shaky at times in the game? But your thoughts on the performance. I know you said you took a lot away from the game. Are you carried away with the performance, or is it just the players gave a little bit back to the fans, like we said? Your thoughts overall on that performance against Forest?
Look, I think it was a good win. A lot of players that we haven't seen this season played well, and that's one of the biggest takeaways for me. Getting that confidence up for those type of players that haven't played well. I think we played well, but we also have to take into account that it is Nottingham Forest. I think there was a few things proved. The fact that I think I was debating with a lot of Son fans, saying that Perisic is the problem why Son isn't playing. And I do think at the same time I was right saying that it was his confidence that was taking a toll on him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think they might be right saying that Perisic takes away a bit from Son. We've seen games where Sessegnon starts. We've seen games where Davies starts on the left wing back, and Son has played so much better. So there's a lot of takeaways to take from this game, but again, we can't take too much away from it because it is not on Forest. But at the end of the day, it's just 3 points on the board at this point in the season. Performances don't matter much. It's just getting the results, and that's exactly what we went out and did.
Yeah, well said, Dan. Thank you. I've got a quick question for you, Dan, as well, before I move on to Jude. You just made me think of, you mentioned Perisic and Davies. Who do you want to see remain left wing back for the rest of the season? You've got Perisic, who people said getting Son's away. I think personally, myself, really, really, really poor defensively. Partly comes down to his age. He's asked a lot, get down the flanks. At one point where he was playing twice a week, 180 minutes a week at his age was a lot. down the flank, wing back role. I mean, it's a lot of running. I mean, we find excuses for him. Davis, it does sum up the ambition of the club for me, but he is someone who's just dependable, reliable, does what's asked. But Dan, I want to know, who do you want to see at left back for the remainder of the season, or does it depend on the type of game?
When it comes to Perisic, I think one of the main reasons why he looks so defensively terribly is the fact that he has such a bad left-sided centre back behind him, and to protect for him. I think you saw him at Inter Milan. He had Skriniar behind him. He had Bastoni behind him. So he looked very well. Nobody realized that he was so bad defensively, but now he's being exposed because he has Ben Davies defending behind him, Longley defending behind him. And for me, I don't think they're good enough centre backs to cover. So I think it's manageable if you have somebody behind him to protect the goal, but who we have isn't good enough, and he's exposing Perisic's defensive abilities. It's one of the reasons why Pedro Porro hasn't looked so good defensively, is because many of the few games that he's played, Romero hasn't been there. It's been Davinson Sanchez. But ever since Romero and Porro have been playing in the same starting 11, we've seen a completely different Pedro Porro, and a lot of people are wondering why. For me, that's the reason why. Not enough good cover behind him. To say though, I do think that doesn't say that he's not a bad defender, because he is. But we do have to remember this is a left winger that was converted into a left wing back, and without that proper player to play behind him and defend for him, I don't think we're ever going to see the best version of Perisic. At the same time, I do think that he does occupy the same spaces as Son does. It's one of the main reasons it's taken away from Son this season.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Dan. Jude, thoughts on performance? Forest, do you agree with Dan? Is it the fact we got the result? Do you get carried away, if you like, or happy with the performance, especially in that first half? Some people said, including myself, I think the tempo was better. It was a much better performance, I think, especially first half, that we saw against Milan, saw against Wolves, saw against Sheffield. Slightly might have been so different team, different scenario, different game, different time, of course. But I want to know your overall thoughts on the performance quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole tempo was a lot better, but it's annoying because the tempo was better in the game that doesn't matter, and that sums up the ambition and the club as a whole, with the fact that we can play with a high tempo and on the front foot against smaller teams in games that don't matter. But I do think, as Dan said, one good takeaway from it was players like Richarlison, especially Richarlison and Son, had a good game, and I think they need that for their confidence, especially after what Richarlison said in the week about how his his interview in the week, and I think Conte to then play him, and then for him to play well, and then get him. I'm not even going to talk about that offside because that's just ridiculous. But to get a goal robbed from him, absolutely robbed, I just think it's great for his confidence, and I think that's a good positive to take away from a bad week in general, to be fair.
Yeah, I agree. And moving on, I stick with you, Jude. I want to know your thoughts on how Fraser Forster's done since Lloris has been injured. It's been a question today. Yeah, would you keep him as your number one till the end of the season? Is he the long-term answer? Fire away, Fraser Forster. How's he done? Yeah. All right, I'm going to say my thoughts first on Fraser Forster, while Jude is finishing what he's got to do there. I'll wait for them both to come back. I think that Fraser Forster's done a fantastic job, since coming in for Hugo Lloris. But how people can suggest he's the long-term answer at 34 is beyond me. I want to see him as a number one. Till the end of the season. I can't help but laugh at that. Until the end of the season. I think that bar was set low by Lloris's performances recently. I think Fraser Forster number one to the end of the season, but he's not the long-term answer. But I think he's done fantastic since stepping in for Lloris. So Dan, if you can, your thoughts on Fraser Forster since he's coming for Lloris.
No, but look, in all seriousness, I think this just sums up our club, that we need somebody to come in and replace an aging goalkeeper, and we bring in a goalkeeper that's even older than the aging goalkeeper. Like it just sums up every single problem at this football club. Of course, Fraser Forster is not the solution. Of course, he's not. Like this man was a goalkeeper at Southampton, and we brought him in. People were saying his career is done. Like, and then we're going in for Ben Foster. Like, this just sums up our whole football club and how it's run. I don't think he can be the main solution. There's a few goalkeepers in my mind. I like Emi Martinez. I like Pickford. I like there's David Raya. There's a few goalkeepers out there that we can definitely go in for.
Who's your favourite?
My favorite, I'd say Emiliano Martinez,
Yeah,
because mainly he
agree.
linked very well with Christian
He hates
Romero.
Arsenal as well. He hates
That as
Arsenal. That
well.
helps. That
That as
definitely
well.
helps.
The Sol Campbell, come on, bring him in.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. If you're listening after on Spotify, which will probably be tomorrow, we did have a bit of a funny moment there with Jude. So if you're wondering why we all are laughing, Jude will be back as soon as possible. Moment to be remembered there. But moving on, down while we're waiting for Jude, I want to know thoughts on Richarlison's performance. I think he had an assist, he had a disallowed goal. He's involved in everything positive. So I want to know your thoughts on his performance.
I'm so
No, look,
sorry.
You're fine.
Well, I'm someone that rates Richarlison so highly, and a lot of people slate him. A lot of people are mad about him. Even I was a little bit like frustrated when the whole interview came out that he was saying all that. I think it's come out now and how he's played. If you're going to talk all that, you have to show it on the pitch, and he did. He's very, very good. Assisting wise was fantastic. He was through on goal. He scored. I'm going to say he scored a goal because how has that not been counted?
He's onside, yeah, exactly.
Absolute travesty. Like that is the most clear onside you're ever going to see. Referees in the beginning of the season said that they're going to give the benefit of the doubt to the striker. The lines are literally on top of each other. You're contradicting yourself. This is the problem with refereeing in this country. But what could we want to suppose? I like David Raya, but I would take Emiliano Martinez. But look, back on Richarlison, I think he was very good. And one of the best things that I saw about Richarlison is that he had a smile on his face again. And he looked very frustrated the last few games. And to see him like in the good mood, playing very well, I was very happy to see that. And just big up to Richarlison. I'm somebody that went to North London Derby for my first ever Tottenham game not too long ago. Sadly we lost, but Richarlison was warming up on the
Yeah,
bench and he waved at me.
for you.
I'll never forget that. I will never forget that. Richarlison waving at me. It's one of the main reasons why I love him so much. Also for the fact that I'm part Brazilian. And when he scored that bicycle kick in the World Cup,
Oh,
just
class that.
but like, I just love Richarlison, and I really do hope he succeeds at Tottenham. I think a lot of fans think of him as a player coming in to compete for the starting 11 because of his price tag. I think it's a bit unfair. I don't know why players get the price tag put on them. They're not choosing the price tag. I never understood that. I've never understood how players, when they get paid millions of dollars for fans can go and blame them for how much owner is paying for them. Like that for me, I've never understood that. But I think Richarlison is brought in as a backup striker, and I think he's a quality backup striker. But at the end of the day, for me, I'm going to be completely honest, putting my love aside from Richarlison, he's been disappointing this season. I think he's capable of a lot more. And listen, I think he could do some big stuff at Tottenham. And as a backup striker, the last one we really had was Llorente. From Llorente to Richarlison, there's a big difference. And I think a lot of people just don't like him, especially from rivals, because of all his shithousery and all that. But I think he's a very good player. And putting all that aside, putting all the hate for him aside, I think fans especially have to realize he's been very good. And I think he's been played out of position as well. For me, I think his main position is striker.
Yeah.
And he's been played on the wing most of the time. So you have to give that to him as well. He played that fantastic performance out of position. So you have to give it to Richarlison.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, thank you, Dan. I mean, technically, I'm counting it as he scored a Premier League goal now for Tottenham.
Yeah.
Again, that's offside for me. It's a joke. It takes that long to look at it, and it's that tight. The line's been drawn incorrectly, and absolutely convinced that that's onside. Jude, quickly, before we wrap it up, a couple of things before that. I want to know your thoughts. Yeah, Richarlison's performance against Forest. Yeah, was that more the Richarlison we signed or paid the money for?
I think that was. I think I spoke about earlier the way that he, as Dan said, the way that he was playing with a smile and he was playing. He looked happy to be playing for the first time in a while, and I think that's great to see. He was really good. I think he was really energetic. He pressed really well, in my opinion, and I think when we press as a team, and if one player leads, and I think the rest do, and I think when we press as a team, we play better for it. So I think he was taking the lead, pressing. That offside is just a joke, really. If it's not clear, VAR was brought in for clear and obvious mistakes. If it's taken 3 or 4 minutes to draw incorrect lines, as you said, Harry, it's not clear and obvious, is it? It's finding any way to rob him of a goal. But I do think he played extremely well, and as Dan said, out of position. So I think that is what we paid 60 million for. Them
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
thank you.
performances.
Yeah, thank you both for your opinion on that. Quick fire question for you. Just requires a yes or no answer. Starting with you, Jude. Does Danjuma deserve more minutes for you?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, Dan?
I do
For
think,
you?
look, not to deserve more minutes because he hasn't played well. But what I would say is play him in his position. He's played
Yeah.
one game at striker. There, we take the absolute mick out of Harry Kane, and then we wonder why he gets injured so much. I think we have to give him more rest time. There's countless games where we're winning 2-0, 3-0 comfortably, that the game's already in the bag. And we just allow Harry Kane to continue to play on the pitch to risk him from getting an injury. Games like that, bring on Richarlison, put him at striker. Watch him perform. As a backup striker, which is what we brought him in for, he's quality. So I
What
don't
about
think more
Danjuma?
give him more minutes. Danjuma play. I think he's left winger, in my opinion.
Deserve more
Danjuma is a
minutes
left
for
winger
you?
for me.
More minutes for you?
Yeah, I think he does. Well, to be fair,
Yeah.
nobody can say he doesn't because he hasn't played. Well, he's played like 1 minute and he scored a goal. So
Yeah, I just think games like that against Milan, you've got to bring him on. Last thing before we wrap up for today's show. Prediction for Southampton. Quick score prediction with you, Dan. So what do you think the scores will be next weekend?
well, Henry, I think it's this football club is extremely difficult to predict. We're one of the most unpredictable football clubs in
Yeah.
all the football clubs. So I'm gonna be a little bit positive, especially on the back of a win. I think we'll carry on the momentum, and I think we'll win. But I think it will be a close game, and I think it will be 2-1 to Tottenham.
2-1 to Tottenham. Thank you, Dan. I think you summed that up perfectly. Jude, score prediction. Go for
I
it.
agree. I agree with Dan. We're extremely unpredictable. But I do think that we do struggle at St Mary's, and I think that we will continue to struggle this year. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw.
Okay, fair enough. And so we've got a win, we've got a draw, and I hate to say it, but we've got a loss, I'm afraid. I don't feel confident about it now. It's a game that we've struggled in the past. I mean, I predicted us to lose. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but predicted us to lose against Wolves. This is, for me, it's a similar type of situation. Team fighting for their lives down the bottom. Small team away from home where we're going to, for me, I think, slip up. I'm going, sadly, 1-0 to Southampton. But I think that is it for today's show. So thank you both for joining me. You've both been a pleasure. Another young panel tonight, proving that age is just a number, something that we like to do here at Scarfy Spurs. So that's fantastic. So start with you, Dan. Where can people find you? And thank you for coming on today.
No problem, but it's a pleasure being on the Harry's Coffee channel. It's honor. This is my debut on the channel as well.
It
Big up
is.
for it. Thank you so much for having me. Big up to the chat. You guys can find me at DanteHFC. I've just hit 900 subscribers. I was about to say 9,000.
Congratulations.
I wish 9,000, but 900 subscribers. We're 100 off the elusive 1,000 subs. So if you haven't already, make sure please to go over to my channel, subscribe. On the road to 1K, we're 100 away left. But first of all, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, though, what are you doing? What are you doing? Make sure you scroll down a little bit. There's a little red button there that says subscribe. Smash it. Harry deserves it.
Oh, thank you very much, Dan. Very kind of you. Congratulations on 900 subscribers, by the way, much deserved. Very close to 1,000, and I think you'll get there in absolutely no time. That is a big milestone, and the first of many, I'm sure. But thank you for having you on. Very, very keen, as you know, to have you on. So it's fantastic that you could make it. Jude, thank you for coming on. I believe it's your second time, if I'm correct, on the channel.
Yes.
obviously it's only episode number 6, so I think that's quite impressive. So Jude, where can people find you on social media?
On underneath my name, that's my TikTok tag, and then in the bio is my Instagram and my YouTube. So if you can go over and give my YouTube a follow, I'm going to be starting to post more Spurs content on that. And yeah, so thank you for having me on, Harry. Appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. So yeah, make sure to go follow Dan, check out his channel, and also, you know, as Jude said, follow him on Instagram. Go check it out. Both names are under there. That's everything. Yeah, thank you all for watching. Reminder that you can watch, if you prefer to listen or you want to watch again, you can on Spotify. I'll be uploading that tomorrow. But yeah, thank you both of you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like it, leave a like. Thank you, and join us next week. Next Monday for episode number 7. So thank you both. But as we like to say on this channel, come on you Spurs.
That's